Welcome to Money, Manifestation, and Business, the podcast that shows you how to use your energy, intention, and consciousness to reprogram your money mindset, unleash a new level of possibility, and create a life and business that lights you up. I'm your host, Jamie Berman, and I invite you to join me each week for a dose of inspiration, coaching, and teachings to help you rewrite your money story, create abundance on your terms, and grow your business in a way that's fully aligned for you. This is going to be so much fun. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the podcast, my friends. I want to thank you in advance for bearing with my voice today. It's a little deeper than normal. I'm getting over a pretty nasty cold I had all week. My immune system's just been down. There's been a lot going on. And y'all know I love to share the journey of my manifestations in my life and what's been up. And oh my gosh, it's been an all at once type of thing, like lots of goodness, but it kind of hits your system and definitely hit my system. And I ended up manifesting a cold. And so it is moving through me, but we are officially in just the midst of so much change. I have put my condo on the market and it actually got an offer within 2 days, sight unseen, which was a miracle in and of itself. I'm going to do a whole life update podcast soon. I'll talk about that and how we manifested that. And then we put our LA home on the market and have been having open houses and showing it and getting in and out of the house. And that's a whole thing. I've never cleaned so much in my life. Just between all of it, in between the showings, but it's been really great. Lots of interest. So that's been awesome. And on top of it, I had a launch and I am still running my business. And I have my little doggy Millie, who's been a bit anxious with all the action going on, saying, "What the heck are you doing to me, Jamie?" And then we leave to Maui tomorrow to go, first of all, clean out our condo a bit and clean out all of our personal stuff from there because we are closing on it very, very soon. And then we are also looking for houses because the intention is to get moved to Maui on August 1st. So if y'all could just hold some of that vibration of the flow and of it all working out so divinely along with me, that would be so helpful. Okay. So I will give you a full-on life update in a separate podcast episode, but for today, sometimes I feel like there are weeks where I am coaching on the same thing over and over and over, and it seems like the same messages keep coming up, the same stuff keeps coming up. And that's when I know, okay, I'm going to do a podcast episode. This is 100% a theme in this season. So I know for sure if my clients are asking me and if I'm coaching people through it, 100% it will probably benefit you as well. So what I wanted to dive deep into today is learning the skill of having money, of holding money, right? Expanding your capacity to hold money and to have money. And I want to talk about why that's a really important skill. Now, this is a different skill from manifesting money and creating money, which I always say in terms of wealth creation, that's step one, right? And that's typically the work that I teach is how to actually manifest money, right? But what ends up happening sometimes for people is they learn that skill of manifesting money and they're really good at bringing it in, or they're just good at bringing it in. They can bring money in. But they actually don't know and haven't learned the skill of having and holding money. That's a different thing. So this podcast episode is for you if you feel like you've been able to attract money, but it's really hard to hold on to it, right? You feel like no matter what, it comes in and then it goes right back out and you have to circulate it right away. Or, you end up manifesting a bunch of money, but then get hit with some kind of unexpected expense or unexpected bill. And it goes away, right? Or if you just don't feel comfortable having money, maybe when you see money in your account, you have the urge to spend it, or you come up with some idea of something you want, or maybe you have a list of things that you've been wanting to do or invest in or try or experience, and you have this big bucket list that I'm a big fan of and I teach y'all to do. But your thought is the minute that the money comes in, you're thinking about where to bring it out into the world. And so we want to talk about having money and holding money and the value of that. And I think this is probably the least talk about topic in the manifestation space, because I hear a lot of people talking about circulating money. In fact, I talk about circulating money, right? And how money is meant to be circulated, it's meant to flow. But the thing is, a portion of money is meant to be circulated, is meant to be in flow, right? Once you create money, once you manifest money, the way that I think about it is there's a couple things that you can do with it. And I like to balance these out. And I talked about this a couple episodes back in the podcast episode of the untraditional habits that have helped me become a multimillionaire. I talked about once you manifest money and have some money, the 3 buckets that I like to balance out with that money that I've created. And the 3 buckets are the having bucket, holding, which is what we're going deep into today, which is your ability to have money in savings, to have a reserve in your business, to hold on to some money, to take a salary for yourself and not just spend all the money in your business on your business, right? This is holding and having. That's one bucket. Another bucket is circulating, which is, of course, using the money for the things that we need in our lives, but also for experiences and different things, right? And that is putting money out in the world and spending. And then the third bucket is multiplying. And I always like to intentionally think of putting a portion of my money into multiplying, which is actually intentionally investing, whether that's investing in myself, that tends to multiply money, or investing in things like the market or in real estate or other investments, right, etc. So those are the 3 buckets, is the having bucket, the circulating bucket, and the multiplying bucket. And I think when we balance all 3 of those, that's where wealth is created, true wealth, right? If you think of a wealthy person, they balance those 3 out really well. And I think for many people, they might be good at like 1 or 2 of those buckets, but they struggle with one of them. Some people are really good at manifesting money, but then really good at circulating money, right? And that's where you feel like, God, you can never hold on to it. And so the thing is that when you first start manifesting money, I just want to kind of talk this through with you all. When you first start manifesting money, you're probably going to actually focus more on 2 buckets. You're probably going to focus on the circulating and balancing that with holding, because you want enough money held first before you start investing and multiplying, right? So I tend to like to have some kind of reserve, some kind of amount in savings first. And then once that reserve is built up, then I can spend it on that 3rd bucket of multiplying, right? Because you have the overflow to be able to do that. Okay. So let's dive into having, because that's the topic I want to do a deep dive on, and I will try to do different episodes with all of the different buckets throughout this next maybe 6 months or so, okay? So stay tuned. Be sure to be subscribed to the podcast. Let's talk about having and holding money so that you can then create the overflow to multiply it even more and to put more into that multiplication bucket, which also allows you to put even more into the circulation bucket, because they all 3 work beautifully. Okay, having and holding. Why have and hold? That is the first question. Why does it matter? Because I think a lot of people have this misconception that money is meant to be spent. And my thing again is a portion of money is meant to be spent. A portion of money is meant to be circulated. There's also a portion of money that is meant to be held. Why hold on to a portion? Here is why. Number 1, I think it really helps to calm the nervous system. When we have a reserve or however you want to call it, a reserve, whenever you have savings set aside, you have money held, you have money sitting there in stillness, right? And not moving, but just being there, kind of being there for you. It's like a support support bucket, right? When you have that, it can oftentimes chill your nervous system out and move you out of survival mode. Because when you don't have that and you're only ever circulating money or making money, the problem is that then you always have to make decisions out of survival. You think, how am I going to pay next month's rent? How am I going to pay my employees? How am I going to pay my team, right? And so then when we don't have any money held, any money just still sitting there, calming our nervous system, we tend to be more anxious. We tend to be more urgent in decisions. We tend to be more panicked, and we're urgently trying to make money, which we can never, ever make the most intuitive decisions from that place. It's hard to make aligned decisions when you are in an urgent, anxious, panicked place around money, thinking I absolutely need it for my survival, right? And that's when you make the offers that aren't aligned, or you end up, cutting your prices, or you just don't make real strong intuitive decisions in your business from that place. So having a reserve, having some money held can be so helpful for your nervous system, and it will really make all the difference. And it will also really help you manifest more money from that place if you allow some of your money to sit still and just to be there, right? Another thing about having money is that it gives you options. You are no longer stuck in have to energy. So if you're feeling tired or drained or you need a week off, you feel a lot more safe doing that. You can slow down and you can make more aligned decisions in that way as well. Also, it's like it just has your back, right? So again, it's like it gives you options. If anything happens in life, which it totally could, it gives you options. Having money is a support, right? You can think of it like a little teddy bear. It's a support there for you if you need it. So helpful in terms of that, and just giving you way more options, right? You don't always have to do certain things, have to be working, have to be in hustle mode, right? It gives you the ability to slow down and be more intentional, sometimes to heal, sometimes to, make space and time for the other values in your life that are calling you. It gives options. Also, it expands your capacity to receive, because you step into the identity of not just someone who gets money, but you step into the identity of someone who sustains it. And this is what opens the door to next level wealth. Because if you don't let yourself have money, you will never step into that next level of wealth, because you can't end up multiplying money, right? And you just won't have the overflow to do that. And, I think so many of us have that intention. Those of us who want to call in abundance in our life, we want to make money in our sleep, right? We want money to come through many channels. And when you let yourself hold money, it allows you to build up enough to have the overflow to then invest in the things that can make you money in your sleep, that can end up multiplying your wealth, and your money can make money, right? So that's huge. And that is a reason. So every time you see money just sitting there in your account and your brain says, oh my gosh, I want to spend it on this, I want to do this, I want you to just think for one moment, having that money is going to help me multiply my money. If I let it sit still, it will end up multiplying like 100 times more than if I take it out and spend it on some experience right now, or something right now that I think I urgently need, right? So that stillness matters. I kind of like to think of it like meditation, right? Because so many of us have been wired to do, to never sit, to never rest, to never calm the mind, never just let ourselves be still. But what's actually wild is when we let ourselves be in stillness, you end up feeling like you have way more time in the day. Those who meditate, they generate more time for themselves. They are 10,000 times more productive because they let themselves sit still to be. We need that balance in our lives, right? We can't just run. Same with money. It's kind of like letting your money meditate so that it can come from its highest consciousness and end up multiplying later and multiplying from there, right? Let your money meditate for a second. You don't need to pull it out right now. It doesn't always have to be in motion. It doesn't always have to be moving. Let a portion of it meditate, just like let yourself meditate for a portion of your day. Let yourself rest. Let yourself be in stillness. You know for sure you're going to be way more productive if you slow down sometimes. Same with money. Let a portion of it slow down and rest. It will make all the difference. One of the other benefits to holding money is that overflow allows for greater generosity and impact. So it really is like that saying, you cannot give from an empty cup, right? It's true. You cannot give from an empty bank account. You cannot give them from the highest level, right? You cannot create as much impact from empty. You just can't. When your bank account is emptier, you cannot create the same amount of generosity and impact and giving. And so it's so interesting because it really is kind of like a metaphor for people who are always giving in their life and don't ever take time for themselves, right? Don't ever nourish themselves, which then you're giving from empty. And that is actually impacting how much you're able to give. It limits the amount that you're able to give. And what is giving if you're not giving to yourself? Same with money, y'all. You cannot give from an empty cup yourself. The first person you need to learn to be generous to is you. It is so important, and especially for women out there. I know this is also for men or all genders, but I know a lot of women have been programmed to believe that they just have to give and give and give, right? And it's all at the expense of themselves, and it's guilty if they sit down or slow down, and maybe that's how you saw your mom do it. But we really have to reprogram that because you cannot give to the same extent if you don't let yourself hold. So holding is powerful, and it really is a super powerful act of generosity. But you got to learn to be generous with yourself first. That is step one. Huge, huge, huge. All right. So I want to talk about what gets in the way for people. Like I said, I've coached a lot of people on this topic, and I have really supported a lot of people in creating greater capacity to have and in really learning to set money aside for themselves and let money sit still and have a reserve for themselves. And so I want to talk about some of the most common themes that I have seen and how, I'm just going to give you some reframes, some new perspectives, new ways of looking at it in case this is you. Okay, so for the first one is if I don't use it now, it will disappear, right? It's like, oh, if I don't use it now, it will disappear. And first of all, we just want to question that thought because like the opposite is true. It's more like if you use it now, it will disappear, right? If you use it now, it will disappear. And here's the thing. With this belief, it's really about trusting that money will stay and grow rather than fearing it will disappear. You really have to start on some kind of subconscious level seeing that holding money allows it to grow even greater. Right? Not believing it's going to disappear, not believing it's going to go away, not believing you're going to have to spend it on something you don't want, but start programming your brain to see money in a high yield savings account that's just sitting there doing nothing or just sitting in your account that you haven't touched yet. Start visualizing that money growing, almost like seeing that as this super potent seed, right? A seed that is planted, and if you just let it sit there and you don't pull the seed out right away or yank it out of the ground, that seed is going to grow, and it's going to grow a massive tree of wealth, right? So that's a visualization that you can do. It's picture $10,000 just sitting in your account. And I know for a lot of you, you might feel anxious. Usually if you see $10,000 in your account, you think I need to spend it or there's something I want to put it towards. Instead, I want you to just practice visualizing picturing $10,000, whatever number you want. I'm just saying 10,000. You can pick 100,000. You can pick a million. I don't care. Pick a number that you see sitting in your account and seeing it as a seed and watching it grow, watching it multiply. Believe if I let it sit still, it will end up multiplying, right? Not maybe necessarily from that account, but the more that that account grows, then you're going to have overflow and you're going to be able to put it into investments and things like that. Okay, the next limiting belief I hear often that gets in the way for people of holding money is money is meant to be circulated. And I mean, I even say this thought, I offer this thought, right? Because some money is meant to be circulated. But here is the reframe. Some money is meant to be circulated. A portion of money is meant to be circulated because, of course, it's the resource that allows us to live, right? So what I would do is start saying a portion of money is meant to be circulated. Just like a portion of money is meant to sit in stillness and be there for me, right? It's meant to just be, and it's just meant to grow. And then a portion of money is meant to multiply, right? So that's the reframe, is a portion of money is meant to be circulated. Because we really don't want this all or nothing thinking. It's not, oh, I'm either going to spend all of my money or I'm going to hoard all of my money. It's like, no, it's a combination of circulating and holding. Can I hold a portion? Can I hold my capacity? Can I expand my capacity to hold on to a portion? And depending on how much you make and what your expenses are, that number might be small to start, and that is okay. But like, can you always be holding, like, can you put $5 in every single week, right? $5 every week, that's it. And learn to just hold that money. Let it be there. And this might be a reprogramming practice, but a portion is meant to be held and a portion is meant to be circulated. And then a portion is meant to be ultimately multiplied if you want to create wealth. So that's the reframe on that, is it's not all circulated. And I know in the manifestation space, we often talk about money kind of like water, right? We use that metaphor often. I've read about it a lot, right? Because current, or like water is like a current and money is currency. But I want you to think about all of the ways that life thrives in water, right? Sometimes it is moving. Sometimes water is moving. It's a rushing river. Sometimes there's a current and sometimes it's moving fast, and that's just like circulating. But sometimes you have a pond that is completely still. It's just sitting there. There's literally no movement. It's a reservoir, right? And there's so much life that can only thrive in that kind of water. And then some water is evaporating and then multiplying and, turns into a cloud and then turns into rain, right? And that's the multiplication. So water does many things. And same with money, right? It's like there's many ways in which money thrives. So we don't want to look at it as money is only a river. It's only a rushing river, because we would not have the ecosystem that we have now if water only moved. Some life thrives in stillness. So just look at it like that. It's meant to be all of those things, not just in motion. So again, let your money meditate. Okay. Another one that gets in the way for people is you only live once mentality. Like, life is never guaranteed. I might as well spend the money now. And here's the reframe on that one. You also cannot guarantee that you're not going to live to 120 years old, especially with all the advancements happening and AI coming into the healthcare system and being able to, cure diseases and whatever happens in the next 100 years. Who knows? We may all be living to 200, right? So think about it like this. Like, yeah, you don't know. So that's why it's important to set a portion aside, because you want to give that gift to your future self, right? So that's how I like to think of it, is you never know, but I'm manifesting that I live into my old age. And so I'm just going to live from that place. I'm not going to get rid of it all now. I'm holding a portion aside. And I always picture my retired self is so abundant. She is so taken care of, thanks to me now. Right? Like, I have taken care of her. I put a portion of my money into my retirement account. And I love watching that grow. And I think of like Granny me, who's just living her best life, so abundant, radiantly healthy, living it up in her old age. And that's the reframe that really helped me with that one. So I just want to offer it to you. Another one that comes up for people, this is a biggie that gets in the way of holding on to money, is that it's not safe to have a lot of money, right? They think if I have a lot of money, I'm going to almost have like a target on my back, or it's going to bring up family conflict, or it's going to create a lot of pressure, or people are going to be asking me for money. It's just going to create a lot of heaviness. And there's definitely a reframe on that. Number one, you get to decide how exposed you are about it, right? So you don't have to tell anyone how much money you have, number one, if that's going to make you feel safer. You don't have to. You do not have to expose that. Number two, I like to think, I'm a big girl. I know how to say yes to things and I know how to say no to things. If it feels like an aligned yes, I'll say yes. If it does not, I know how to say no. There's no exposure because it is my money, right? And number three, I think a lot of the things that so many of us fear will happen when our dreams come true, right? Whether it is creating a lot of money and having a lot of wealth, or, oh God, what would happen to me if this happened? Or what would happen if I had a really big business with this? We go to worst case scenario. But most of the time, that is never actually an issue. I remember I used to have this thought, like, I'll have a target on my back and, it's going to cause all of these things. And the truth is, none of that has really ever happened, especially to the extent that I thought it would. And I think a lot of people have this thought that, like, it's going to be heavy once I have a lot of money. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot to manage. And the truth is, it's actually really hard to not have enough money. It's really hard to be in survival mode. It's really hard to always be living kind of paycheck to paycheck or offer to offer. That's hard and heavy. That's the truth. It is hard to not have enough money. It is a lot easier to have overflow. It is a lot easier when you do have money that is held there for you because it's something that can care for you if needed. It's something that gives you options. And in terms of it's a lot to manage, you really have to question that too. That is an outdated illusion. And I know that I used to think like money was this big complicated thing that only men in suits understand. And I had to really question that. And I also started educating myself. That was huge, right? As I started making money, I wanted to educate myself on managing money. And here is what I have learned, y'all. It is way simpler than I thought. I'm like, oh, I thought this was like really complicated. This is actually pretty simple. There's like a couple places to put it. This is, what's recommended. And this all makes sense. I know where it all is. Nobody's doing anything that I don't understand. I am not spending much time at all managing my money. I spent a lot more time whenever I was broke trying to figure out and manage my money in terms of, oh shoot, I need to shift this over. And how am I going to make this payment? That was a lot to manage. This barely anything, right? And there's people to support you in that. There's people that are experts at this. There's people that you are going to feel like you can absolutely trust. Way more people are trustworthy around this than not, right? So that is just something that I would want to put out there to help you see another way. Okay, another limiting belief that oftentimes gets in the way for people is this idea of I don't deserve more than I need. And this one is often tied to religious conditioning or feeling this sense of like subconscious loyalty to struggling family members or struggling community members or friends. And so here is the reframe in this. And I'm going to give you a mantra. It's safe to have. It's safe to hold. I can be a grounded steward of wealth without meaning. Now, the reframe in this is overflow isn't greed. It's how I build a more generous, joyful life, right? Overflow isn't greed. That is that same conditioning of like, oh, I can't I can't do anything for myself. I can't have any self-care. That's like saying I can't hold on to any money. That's greedy if I have some. No, because look at what it can create for you. How is that greed? You can actually be more generous when you hold more. You can be more giving. You can have a more joyful life in the way that you're not constantly worried and anxious and all of that. So, this is the mantra that you can step into. Overflow is not greed. Like, break up with that idea. Overflow is not greed. Overflow is love. Overflow is love for myself. It can even be love for my family. It can be love for everyone. It is not greed. And here's a mantra that you can say: I am worthy of more than just enough. I thrive in overflow and I get to enjoy the full spectrum of abundance. Okay, next money block is if I save it, I'll miss out. If I save it, I'll miss out on X, Y, or Z. Well, here's the truth and here's the reframe. Holding money isn't missing out, right? If you choose long-term alignment and multiplication, that is not missing out. That is adding more into your life. So sometimes maybe we say no to these little things that maybe we don't value as much or we don't need, or you think like, if I miss this thing, it's not that big of a deal. We don't want to come from scarcity, right? We don't want to say, oh my God, if I don't do this, I'll never be able to. It's like, no, you got to say, wait, there are more than enough experiences in this lifetime, and I'm coming from a place of abundance. I don't have to say yes to every single thing that is offered to me. So the real opportunity is learning to trust divine timing and knowing that what is for me won't pass by me. If it's meant for me, it won't pass by me. And to come from abundance with experiences or things that you want to invest in, you have to let go of that mentality that if I save my money, I'll miss out, or if I don't do it now, I'm going to miss out. That will keep you broke. And it's also coming from scarcity. It's not going to end up creating the result that you ultimately want. So you want to choose. Of course, it doesn't mean you can't do anything, but just do the things that feel most aligned. Don't come from the place of scarcity around those decisions. Okay, so the last question that I get asked often is this question of, but Jamie, like I've actually heard that if I'm just saving money or hoarding money or just holding on to cash, I'm actually losing money because of inflation. Like if you just hold on to it, it's actually not a smart financial move. And that is true. I'm going to give you suggested place that you could look into putting this money that you are going to hold, number one. Number two, that is why you want to be strategic with this. Decide on purpose how much you want to hold. How much do you want to have as a reserve in your business? How much do you want to have in your savings or as a reserve in your life? How much do you want to hold on to? Whenever I say hold, it's money that you can take in and out whenever you want. So think about the amount that you want and then think about what overflow would be. Because after you have that amount, then you can think about where do you want to put it to multiply it? Where do you want to start putting money to invest? And that's where money can really multiply. But for the money that's held, if you don't want to, quote unquote, lose that money and just hold it in a basic savings account, what I have done is I hold that money in a money market account, or you can also get a high yield savings account. Look into this. And of course, I live in the US, so that's the terms that we use here. But you can look into this if you're in another country too, but look into what account can I hold my money in that number one is safe, that I can get in and out whenever I want to, but it has a higher return. So you make a percentage on that money. So in savings, you really don't make any if it's just a basic savings account. But in a high yield savings account or a money market account, you can make like 4 to 5% on that money that's sitting there. So there's money, right? That's where that money is even being multiplied. And you're not actually, quote unquote, losing money because of inflation. So just wanted to throw that out there because a lot of people ask me that question, and that's kind of an objection that I get is, but I heard it's not actually a good idea to keep money in savings. And even with that, that's where I only like to have a portion of my money that I have held. And once that amount that I have decided to hold is in there, beyond that, I put money into that multiplication bucket. And that's where you want to start learning about investing. And it's something that you can absolutely learn. It is very, very simple and fun and easy to start gaining knowledge on this. And it's something that, like, for me, I've just done self-study, right? And I've just gotten into it and it's been really, really fun. So that's what I want to offer there. And I hope this podcast episode was helpful. If it was, I would love to hear from you. Number one, if you'd be open to leaving a rating and review, that would mean the world to me, because that helps this message multiply and helps get this out into the world, which I think so many people need this work. So that would mean the world to me. And come follow me over at JamieBerman_ on Instagram and let me know what insights you've had, or if, you've had any wins from this podcast or from this episode, if this was insightful. I always love hearing from all of you. So I look forward to that, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Happy manifesting. Bye, everyone. Hey, thanks for listening. I hope this episode is something that you'll be able to add to your manifestation toolbox to come back to when you need a little extra motivation. If you like what you've heard today and want to take it deeper, you've got to come check out my signature coaching program, the Money Manifestation Movement. It's the place where you'll not only learn manifestation, but you'll begin to live it alongside me and an amazing community of like-minded entrepreneurs doing this work together. Head on over to jamieberman.com to learn more.